there are, so my personality can be a bit mischievous, and I can be a bit of a prankster and troublemaker, and I also care deeply for certain social and environmental issues, and I'm politically engaged, and I love the idea of public performance and interventions, and I studied it during my time here at CalArts. I even took a class on interventions with Natalie Buchten, and one early piece was this freeway sign that I did for my final project that I was actually produced with two of my classmates, and in a night action at 3 a.m. in the morning, we attached it to right where the overpass, McBean overpass is on the I-5. And it's this little joke in a way. It's kind of fun and kind of stupid, but it kind of led to this kind of thinking, this public performance and this intervention led to some other projects later down the line. So in 2006, I took a political action workshop with Marlene McCarty, and I performed an intervention at a Ralph's supermarket in Valencia. And it was triggered by my outrage of the obscene use of plastic bags at the checkout counters here at supermarkets. And what I did was I got a hold of a bunch of paper bags and overprinted a gentle message to the shopper saying, please reuse me, and a little bit of information about the issue. And I went to the supermarket, I handed them out, and found that the reaction was quite positive, and I had fun doing it. And 1 year later, as my somewhat thesis project, I revisited the idea, and this time I went a bit further. I designed and manufactured my own reusable bags, and I gave them away for free on Earth Day 2007. And in a way, I again employed this now you see it, now you don't visual strategy. If you look at the pattern here on the front, it seems pretty benign, but as you walk away, there's this message, paper nor plastic, that appears. And I like to think about this strategy. Well, actually, first I had to sew, right? And I sewed day and night for probably 40 hours. And I had learned something from the artist interventions that I had studied while working on my catalog, which was to create a spectacle. And so I went to the supermarket on Earth Day, and I set up shop with the sewing machine right in front of the entrance. And Colleen Corcoran, my studio mate now, supported me during that day, probably our first collaboration. And I as shoppers looked on, I was sewing and handing out the bags. And I like to think of the strategy as some kind of radical kindness, where I disturbed the social norm to make a point, but in the kindest way possible, like by giving away free bags and having a conversation. And I asked people to sign a pledge, how many months they will use this bag, and people were excited, even the checkout clerks. And I did a small website. I sent out press releases in the Daily News that a piece that actually ran that day, and people came because they had seen the piece. And I could finish this story by saying, and because of that, the bags were banned in 2011 in LA County, and in LA City they were banned in 2014. And of course that's not true. And that's for me a bit of a dilemma with this project. It's like, well, how much did I actually do? How many people's minds did I change? Does it matter that 20 people started reusing their shopping bags? Was I just preaching to the choir? Should I have started or joined a political action committee to lobby politicians and change laws? I didn't do any of that. But so self-criticism, and I admire people that take this one issue and kind of go and make it their life's work. But I hope that making small impact is better than none. And just a few weeks ago, I got this email out of the blue by someone that I met that day, and said, "Hey, I wanted to let you know I'm still using your bag you created on the sewing machine." So, you know, it was kind of nice. And then lastly, here's a piece that I created a few years ago called Street Chess, where I set up this life-size chessboard at Ciclavia. Ciclavia is a street festival that happens 2 or 3 times a year, where roads are closed off 4 miles and people can use the streets in a different way. And a few interests came together here: my love of chess, and my interest in activating urban spaces, and my love of this project, Ciclavia. And they actually funded it. Here's my early proof of concept, Post-it notes, chess pieces, where I was like, well, what if I made this two-dimensional shape of a chess piece, and then use 2 and put them together so they could create a self-supporting 3-dimensional sculpture. And then I just went for it. Here's the Black Battalion after emerging. Here are, I designed it without curves, so I could cut it out of foam core easily. For the carpet, my studio mates at the time supported this, and we spray painted a carpet to make a checker pattern. And it was a big success. This is the former mayor who came by, and he was super excited about it. I was like, this is what I'm talking about, and his entourage stopped, and there were pictures taken. These two knights showed up, strategically placing each other so that they actually threaten each other. And I pulled out the chess set a few times since. So at Ciclavia a few times. Here it is right by City Hall. And it was really nice to see the delight it brings to people as they encounter, something out of the ordinary. And I had it at CalArts when I was working here a summer ago at the promotional materials with Joe Pritchard at the design office. And these Caesar, I had it out for a week, and Caesar kids played with it. Mando and I did a game, and Audrey, the dog, was acting as the referee there. And Pierre and I got to play at one point. And just quickly to wrap this up, a year later, I went back and I created a small companion piece where I laser cut the pieces out of balsa wood, and made this for a kind of zine and small print festival at USC called Shelf Life 2.